Well, hello, friends. Welcome one and welcome all. I can't offer much in this outdoor hall, but sit here and rest. You must be weary, and I'll share with you Tales of Tyria. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this week on Tales of Tyria, we've got a ton of stuff to talk about. We've got the stress test that just went by, we've got a bunch of news, a great new website, a mailbag, and World vs. World Revisited. Stay tuned, it's gonna be awesome. Yes, welcome one, welcome all, welcome to another exciting episode of Tales of Tyria. We are your source for Guild Wars news, insight, and discussion, and we are almost live from the, well, we had to abandon our previous location due to some conflicts of interest. So what we've done is move to a great new location, the Cloud Skimmer Tavern, everybody. This is one of the best sites in Lion's Arch. If you've never been there, you have to go, as long as you're not afraid of heights. Anyway, we're glad you got a hold of the program, however you may have found it. Tell a friend or three, won't you? So let's move into the show, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, I am Bridger. I'll be your host for this evening. And while we're at it, let's introduce the rest of the people on the show here. Freelancer, welcome to the program. If I would unmute you, that would be fantastic. Hello, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. So what happened with the old tavern, Bridger?
It turns out that the Order of Whispers doesn't like anything above a whisper. And I'm not exactly good at keeping my voice down.
Fair enough.
That voice you hear, great. Also, welcome to the program.
Hey, Bridger, how you doing? Glad to be here.
Not bad, not bad. Filling in for Kai tonight. She's going to take the night off, as we are discussing a lot of World versus World, and that's just not up her alley. So we are glad to have Great back, sir. Also with us, Vega. Welcome to the program.
Good evening. How you doing?
Not bad.
I like your fancy new intro.
I know.
It's super fancy.
It took me like an hour. That's not true, though. It actually took me a little bit after that. So, now, we have a bunch of stuff to talk about today, but before we get there, I just want to quickly thank David, Steve, and Brian for donating this past week. It does mean a lot. We've actually, what you're hearing right now is a licensed piece of background music that I think may or may not add some ambience to the show. You can let us know whether it actually does add ambience to the show by sending a message to feedback@talesoftyria.com. So, what I did is these kinds of things, if you want to do them right, cost money. So I went and paid the money, got the thing, so now we've got a cool piece of background technology, all thanks to you guys who are helping and donating. That's really helping us a lot. Turn it up, he says. You guys can't hear this? There's people in the background. It's a bar. It's not just a soundtrack. No, seriously. Anyway, so what we have is a bunch of news to talk about today. First of all, the game has an official launch time. We've had a launch date for a very long time. Now we have an actual launch time. It will actually launch at midnight Pacific time on the Friday night going into Saturday the 25th. That's not what something... I never expected that. Did you guys expect that?
Nope. I was not ready for that one.
That's like
I mean, it makes sense, but it sucks for everyone on the East Coast.
It certainly does. Oh, it sucks for everybody on the West Coast, too. You got to stay up playing all night. You're going to screw up your whole sleep schedule for the next week.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. So what does that equate to in Eastern? About 3, right?
3 a.m.
3 a.m.?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's basically my worst fear is coming true, because I would assume that the reset time for servers is 3 a.m.? Is that what we're assuming? Maybe?
I don't necessarily think that implies that the reset time is going to be midnight. I mean, if I were ArenaNet and I'm like, all right, we're going to have this critical World versus World reset thing, and it's going to happen, once per day and then 2 weeks every week, we're going to want our staff on hand in case something goes wrong, and they're not going to want to be there at midnight. I can't see that happening, to be honest.
I don't know, Bridger. We'll see.
All right, I might be wrong. We'll see. That's something that we're still waiting to hear from ArenaNet on whether that's going to be the case or not. So the other thing is that that's a worldwide launch, which some people were concerned, like, oh, is it going to come out like a couple hours later in Australia, or like they're not going to be able to connect to their login servers or anything, or Europe or what have you, but it is worldwide, so that's good. Now, another piece of information that we have here is the beta weekend number 3 difficulty. A lot of people were complaining about it and saying, oh, ArenaNet nerfed it, it's terrible, the game is going to be too easy. Well, this was posted to Reddit, and I'll put it for you right here by the ArenaNet team. Greetings, heroes of Tyria. I like how they think that we actually care about lore, like I do. But probably the people that are really upset about this didn't really necessarily matter. Okay. So, first of all, it is important to understand the game is still in beta, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. You can read through the whole thing. The crux of the issue here is that they drilled into their event metrics and discovered that the difficulty had been changed by a couple of settings, not on purpose. So they went and sort of refixed the difficulty back towards beta weekend event number 2. They basically had some setting in there that affected the balance of all of the mobs in PvE, and maybe in World vs. World, all of the AI mobs, and made them less difficult. I mean, great. Did you play any PvE? Did you feel that the difficulty went down?
Actually, there is, and there's a great video. I don't remember where it is, but it's in the Norn starting area, and there's that first skill point you do where you fight, like, the bear lady or whatever. And in the first beta weekend, she was, like, destroying groups of people in there. Like, she was, like, smacking people around off the walls. And in the third one, there's this video of this guy who just kind of auto-attacks her down.
He doesn't even move. He lets go of the controls. He starts fighting her and lets go of the controls, and he wins.
Yep. So there definitely was some crazy, wonky difficulty things that happened on.
Yeah, definitely good to see that they recognized that, and that was not an intended thing. Like, a lot of people were really worried that they were just dumbing it down for, you know, the casual audience, as it were. All right, so the next link that I've got here, which isn't a whole lot necessarily to talk about, but it's pretty cool, especially if you're in a guild, is a guild emblem creator. And this basically took all of the stuff that from beta weekend number 3 and made it available to you, so you can adjust, you know, the type and what they look like and things like that. So I think we had the tree. So I don't remember what our colors were. It was something important.
It was white on a blue background.
White on white on a blue background.
Blue shield background. Yep.
And that would be a shield like that-ish.
Yep. That was ours. And the cool thing about the white is it glowed, so that's why we chose the white. Like there was a what do you call that effect? It's tip my tongue.
Fluorescent.
Bloom effect. Bloom effect. Yeah, where the whites would just have that bloom look to them. It was really neat looking.
Awesome. All right, so we are going to move on. Definitely check that out. The link, by the way, to those is in the show notes, so if you want to check it out, I could put a link in the show notes right now for you guys in the chat, but if you are listening to this after the fact, you can find the link at www.talesoftyria.com or in the description right here at the bottom of the video if you're watching this on YouTube. All right, now, they had a stress test this past week. How many of you guys managed to participate in the stress test?
I did not.
I was there the entire thing.
Yeah, I got in there.
You got in there?
Yep.
So I heard that there were some... I was able to get into Eternal Battlegrounds actually kind of right away. I heard that there were some problems getting into World vs. World, like they were still working out those kinks, it seemed.
Yeah, for the first hour or so, you could get into the Eternal Battlegrounds and stuff, and then everything got serious all of a sudden. All the Pug players rushed out there. I think most of the guilds, except for some maybe on some other servers, they took it like way serious, but I think most of TL, we were out in structured PvP. The tournament system was broken. You couldn't do it. But PvE, you know, just having a good time because it was only, what, 4 hours? So,
yeah.
You know.
Now, there were a couple of changes that people did notice. The custom hotkeys are now visible. If you had bound your hotkeys to something else, like something on your mouse, you would know that basically when you look at this, there would be nothing but numbers would show up. So, but now it actually does show Q, E, ellipsis, X, C. Like, I've been trying to figure out how to get ellipsis to show up there for a long time. No, but actually what that is apparently if you have any modifiers like shift and something, it's going to show up as ellipses because they can't fit shift plus 2 in that little tiny bubble. But the other cool thing about this is, and I think I put this in the show notes as well. No, it's going to just right down here. These little gray tan bars at the bottom of the skill icons now represent your range indicators. So not only can you see the custom hotkeys, but it also shows your range to target, whether you're out of range or in range of your target. So that is really cool as well. So that's just a couple of things in the UI that I think I noticed. Did you guys notice anything else majorly different during the stress test?
No, not really.
I actually had a chance to, apparently with Necromancers, when they go into Death Shroud, their health bar is above their Death Shroud bar. Because you know it replaces it with a green bar, their health bar, when they go into Death Shroud?
Are you talking about in the target interface?
Yeah, there's a thin red bar.
That.
That's been in there, but I just kind of saw it for the first time in action.
Yeah, I think that might have been put in Beta Weekend number 3, but I know what you're talking about. It was something new since at least Beta Weekend number 2. Now, there was also a cost increase to arrow carts. They went from 20 to supply to 30 supply. And also, all the siege got more expensive, both in badges of honor and I think also in coin, is what I'm reading on the Guru. Now, what are your guys' thoughts from Beta Weekend number 3? First, let's talk coin. Now, we don't really have any idea, any point of reference on how expensive these things are, because we don't know how much gold you get at level 80. But Freelancer, you were bankrolling the team. Do you think this is a good change or a bad change? Just wild speculation. Go.
I don't think they should cost gold at all. I think they should be, badges of honor. I've always thought that. Gold is so easy to manipulate. So it's not even, because you got gems, somebody could just pay their way to win with the gems and then buy mass amounts of siege equipment. And if it's going to be gold, which is what it's going to be, looks like it's going to be, then it has to be way more expensive than what it is. It has to be there has to be a special feeling when you see a trebuchet out there, where it's like, wow, they really want this keep. They place a trebuchet. Like right now, you see a trebuchet, it's like, oh, they got 3 trebuchets. We got to take them out. There's no sense of awe there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like, the trebuchet is an amazing sight to behold, and if you can just have a ton of them because, for example, you have Freelancer for a guild leader, or a Freelancer in your guild that knows how to make money on the market, or just an entire bot network farming for you, any of those things, or just a ton of money that you can convert into coins and buy unlimited siege, if you're independently wealthy, then it's like, oh, well, trebuchet, who cares? So then at that point, and what should be the limiting factor is supply, because that actually adds a lot of tactical and strategic value to capturing different points in the map. Now, great. What do you think about the supply increase on arrow carts? 20 was really cheap. 30 is basically 50% more expensive. Is that going to cut down on arrow cart spam? Was that a problem?
I felt like that wasn't as big as a problem as it was that first weekend. I think it's kind of calmed down and people have realized sort of the roles of each sort of siege weapon, or they're kind of finding out what the roles are of them. And the arrow cart, you really only need maybe 2 of them. You don't need 10 of them holding down a choke point anymore. So
because ballistas are replacing them.
Ballistas actually end up being a lot better, I guess. But
hey, we don't tell our secrets.
Except on the podcast that 5,000, 10,000 people watch. Vega, what do you think is a good amount of siege? Do you want to see tons of trebuchets out there? Do you want to see catapults rocking every single wall on Stone Mist? I mean, is there a good balance? What do you think?
I think if you have too much, it does kind of take away from the shock and awe of it, If you got, obviously if you have 30 trebuchets or 150 siege golems, that's a lot of shock and awe, but I think you got to keep it balanced, and you got to have it so that these big things that are supposed to give you a good advantage are hard to come by. I'm not the expert in World vs. World, but in terms of if they should be more expensive or hard to come by, I think they should be. So that, when you see a trebuchet out there, it's, oh man, there's a trebuchet. We got to really think about this, not, oh, well, they got 4 or 5. We'll just figure out something, kind of make them a little bit more substantial, I guess you could say.
So if the amount of siege weapons declines, who gets the bigger advantage, Freelancer? Attackers or defenders? Let's say that for whatever reason they implement a way that lowers the amount of siege weapons on the map as a whole. Either supply gets increased or coin or whatever.
I think the advantage will go in for attackers. Because when you're attacking a keep or a tower or what have you, normally the only thing that stops a Zerg from advancing and taking that tower keep is not the cannons and stuff from the walls. It usually, because those can be taken down over time by elementals, but actually the arrow carts that are placed in particular spots, that are defending, or the catapults that are off to the corner that are defending, or it's usually the extraneous siege equipment that somebody places that stops those mass Zergs. So it's going to be the attackers that will have to benefit from that.
Interesting. Anybody have any contrary opinion?
I mean, I would actually say, I want to say it would be the defenders that benefit, because then like attackers can't just go siege crazy, because I have seen attackers go siege crazy at times. But Freelancer does make a really good point that defenders can hold out with just small amounts of like good positioning and like using siege weapons in the right places. So it can go both ways. It all depends.
It's definitely a tightrope. You got to walk on that balance line, trying to make a certain enough siege so that there's enough to actually have an impact on the game, but too much and it becomes less epic every time you see some siege. All right, so why don't we head on over to the mailbag? John writes, quote, "If this has already been covered, please disregard. How do you feel about being able to swap weapons in the middle of a PvP match? Obviously, it has a huge impact on PvP. Say if you're an elementalist changing to a staff if you see there are multiple enemies on a point that you're approaching. Other examples include a ranger only switching to Warhorn for a moment to get the speed buff, then changing back to Greatsword before engaging the enemy. How does Tales of Tyria feel about this? Thanks." Unquote. Well, John, that's a very good question. It's something that we kind of covered on the past, I think maybe on episode 3, all about the PvP. It might have been on that episode. It was a long time ago. But having played it since that discussion, I think there's definitely an issue here, because we saw a lot of like the best structured PvP teams. For example, perfect example would be if you have a character that has a speed buff on a particular weapon, but it's not a weapon type that they like to play. Like I think a warrior with a Warhorn. Warhorn is like, it's okay as an offhand weapon, but I'd rather have something else, and I don't want to use either of my 2 weapon sets to have a Warhorn. I've got a pretty great build without it. But you see people opening up their inventory, switching to a Warhorn, getting the speed buff, then switching back through their inventory menu before they enter combat, and that is really clunky and annoying. So if the designers want them to do that, there should be some other way of doing it. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Great. Should that even be allowed in the game?
My personal opinion is no. Like, if you're in a PvP, like a structured PvP match, you shouldn't be able to change your weapon layout, your traits, your skills and abilities when the match has started. Now, that goes for tournaments. For, like, just the shenanigans you do in the, like, 8v8, 10v10 stuff, whatever, go for it. If you want to switch your skills and weapons every 5 seconds, if you want to have your inventory opened up on the bottom right hand of your screen, covering your minimap, go for it. If you want to be that guy.
That sounds like it might pose an issue, though, because you don't want 2 different rule sets in there, because then people transferring over into tournaments from pugs are going to start getting confused. The things that worked in pugs don't work in tournaments and vice versa. So I'm kind of wary about that. But your position is no switching anything once you get in there, except maybe utility slot skills?
Not even that.
Not even that?
Once the match starts, once those like countdowns go, you're locked in. It's like
complete build wars.
Yeah, well, pretty much. I mean, I look at it from like a sort of Dota or like League of Legends point of view. Once you lock in, your summoner skills and your champion, you're in for that match. There's no like, hey, I'm gonna change, my guy mid match.
But
my role.
So the way I kind of look at it is, I see where you're coming from, but think about it from your skills in Guild Wars 2 being like your item builds in MOBAs. Like, you go into a match, you have your certain skills that you're setting up, and you're picking your champion or hero or whatever. But as you play the game, you kind of see what the opponent's doing and what kind of skills and builds they're going. And that will determine, well, I want to build this item or I want to build this item. And so I think having, like in League of Legends, let's just say every game you had to build these 6 items. You can only build those 6.
Choose them before you start, before you even see the other team.
I feel like that would be terrible. So I'm from the perspective of once if you're in the middle of a fight, let's say, and you're still alive, you're in the battlegrounds, not in the spawn area, if you're in the battlegrounds, you're running around, you can't go and like change your skills or whatever right on the spot because you're in battle. If you die and you're in the spawn area and you saw that the enemy was going a certain build, I think you should be able to kind of tweak your skills and tweak your weapons if you want to. But that's just my perspective. I think it kind of adds a little bit more excitement and.
But then I see that as build wars, because then you have to counter their build in the match. Because like, oh, we just lost the point. Let me just change everything. Let me change my skills around so that I can counter this guy who's like kind of knocking me off the point all the time or something like that.
That's a different definition of build wars than I've had. I always think of build wars meaning the guy who has the better build when the match starts has won before we've even opened the gate, basically. That's build wars to me, is, oh, I'm not able to rectify a situation, once I get to the point where I would like to, go, oh, well, strategically, this would be the best thing to do right now, but I'm locked in, so I'm screwed. That kind of, to me, is what I think of when I hear build wars, but everybody's got a different kind of definition of that. Freelancer, where do you weigh in on this whole thing?
We kind of hit on this about half a year ago, with switching weapons. I don't think it should be available in the middle of combat, or not in the middle of combat, but in the middle of a competitive match. I still don't. And my reasons then still apply now. I feel like if you spend the time to develop a comp, that's the whole idea of a comp and a meta, all of that gets thrown aside when you can say, okay, everybody can switch everything whenever they feel like it as soon as they die, I don't know. It's like being able to, in the middle of a football place, change football players out. You just don't do that. You can do it in between plays or hence, in between matches. But it's just for so many reasons throughout sports, you can't do that in the middle of something without taking a timeout or without actually waiting for the next play. I think it should be the same. It's for the same reason. You go out there, you can assess the situation, you can react to it. I don't think there is such thing as build wars. I have never seen a game yet where there is a build that automatically counters another build. I will disagree with you there, Roger. I've gone through many, many arena years. I've gone through a number of MMOs, and I've never seen a situation where there is just an all-time build that just counters every other build, and there's nothing you can do against it.
I agree with you that there's never a build that counters everything, but there's certainly situations where you have, if you build one way, then you can hard counter another thing, but then another thing can hard counter you, sort of a sort of rock, paper, scissors style build situation. And that means you've got a very few balanced builds, and then a lot of these single case builds that are great if they come up against the right opponent. And I don't like that meta as much as one in which you can dynamically adjust things. But I definitely agree with you 100% about the idea that you shouldn't be able to swap everything, because that just feels a little too much like in the middle of the match you're tweaking your skills and stuff instead of actually playing the game. There needs to be some things in there that are locked in that you can't change. So to me, at the very least, when you leave that spawn area, you shouldn't be able to swap weapons, because if you can, then it becomes the best thing in the game to swap weapons quickly to get speed buffs and get boons just before you go into combat, and then swap back to your combat weapon. I don't want to do that. That's stupid. It feels clunky.
See, it's like let's say we play rock, paper, scissors, okay, and we both go, all right, 1, 2, 3, shoot, and you pull out scissors, I pull out rock, and then you all say, oh wait, I want to change to paper.
Well, no, but the next round, I can change to paper. I think your analogy to football...
No, but mid-round you're allowed to.
No, but I think your analogy
but we need to define
perfect.
like what mid-round is, because to me, when I talk about like switching stuff, I'm talking about you're dead, you're in the spawn area, you can't do anything. So if you want to change your weapons and maybe your utility skills, I don't see that as being a big deal. I don't think you should be able to touch your traits, but messing around with certain skills and changing your weapons in the spawn area only, I don't think is that big of a deal.
Here's the way I see it, is that if this game starts going to like a crazy esport level or something like that, this is where this is really going to actually kind of matter, in my opinion. And when we get to that point, I don't think these matches are going to be best of ones in most scenarios. I think they're going to be best of threes in a lot of cases. So like they'll be between
really
matches where you can go to the lobby, and just change your whole build there if you really feel like you need to change your build then. But then you go into round 2 and your build is just like whatever, and you've changed it from the first one.
Yeah,
I think that should be allowed.
I think Freelancer's analogy to football is perfect, but I have a different way of setting it up is that each play in Guild Wars 2 would be basically a life where you go out and you're making a play, and if you succeed, you get to stay out there and you get to the next thing. When you die, that's kind of like in between plays now, and I feel like you should be able to switch things out. Only in the spawn area, not anywhere else, and only in the spawn area, only certain things too. I don't think you should be able to change your traits. At the very least, I think people should be able to swap their utility skills, and maybe weapons. I'm not decided whether or not I think that's the best thing ever, but I'm very adamant that utility skills should be swappable in spawn only. That's kind of my position. So anyway, we did talk about that in the past, and I think we may have gone a little too much into it for you, John. but that's kind of where we stand, and I really do hope that they fix that so that weapons can't be swapped outside of the spawn area at the very least, or maybe even not at all, just because I hate to have to open my inventory in order to get that speed buff every time I leave the spawn area or every time I'm heading into combat or whatever. That would just feel really clunky and annoying. So anyway, Daedalus Dragon sends us the next piece here. He says, quote, I don't play PvP in any form, but the hype of World v World has me really excited about trying it out. Any pointers or tips related to PvP in general or for World vs. World specifically would be amazing. I'm really bad at PvP. Unquote. So, Daedalus Dragon wants some very basic tips for somebody who doesn't play a whole lot of PvP. Who wants to help him out?
Well, I think one important thing that people need to realize is that you're in in PvP, for example, you're not playing for kills, you're playing for points. So if you are chasing that one guy, for example, for 5 minutes of the match just trying to kill him, he's doing his job by getting you from not capturing points. So one simple thing is you're on a team, and the point of PvP is to capture the points and control those points, not kill people. Kill people is like a secondary objective, at least the way I see it.
Absolutely. I think another really important one is that, it's something that you probably do in PvE, but it's way more important in PvP because of spike damage that really a lot of players will try to do to you, is keep an eye on your health. It's all the way down there at the bottom of the screen, and I can't count the number of times that, I'm just going, I'm sitting on the wall, I'm killing people. Why am I dead? I didn't even know I was getting close. All I needed to do was dodge backwards, and I would have been fine, but I wasn't paying attention. So that's something that you got to break the habit of just focusing on everything that's out there, because there's a lot of stuff to look at in World versus World. You have to look down every 2 seconds and check your health and find out what's going on. So that's my tip, I guess. But that was definitely a good one, Vega. Anybody else?
Yeah, I got one. Okay. Just keep playing. That's my tip. Just go out there, just do it. Like Nike, I guess. Just do it and play, and you'll pick up things. And if you don't go out there with a bad attitude and you don't blame the game and you don't blame everyone else, and you kind of look at yourself kind of critically and you keep doing it, you'll get better, and that's how you get better.
So don't despair, because it's hard. It's not easy.
It takes a lot of time.
PvP there's a lot of stuff to learn. Freelancer.
We're talking structured PvP, right? Is that what he's
Well, he was asking for World versus World advice, or PvP in general, or World versus World specifically.
I was going to say, if it's structured PvP, what class is he playing? Because if he's rolling a Mesmer, try a different class.
Oh, there's your
But no, it's there's a few golden rules. A, you don't ever take on a Guardian alone. B, if you're a thief and you don't know how to play the class, please roll a different class. If you're a Mesmer, just roll no matter what. Just don't be a Mesmer. Because they have no place in structured right now. Oh, trust me, I'm a Mesmer, obviously, but they just have no place in structured. Let's see. In World v World, there's a lot of tips. Don't be that guy that takes supply from Stone Mist. I will hunt you down, and don't be that guy that when I'm laying 2 rams down, you think it's okay, guys. I'm going to help out and lay a trebuchet 20 feet from the wall. Don't be that guy. There's common sense stuff. The tips would be obviously, focus on siege equipment first. Always have supply. I still run across pugs now that do not remember to pick up supply when we take a tower or something. That's a big annoyance. Always have supply. But, I make a note of pug players I see that, make an effort to take the supply from supply camps. even if you're by yourself, don't be a Rambo. A lot of people want to go out in World v. World and they want to buff up their stats and stuff, not realizing that you're actually going to get more by following somebody else. Whether it's, Team Legacy, whether it's somebody from Titan, it doesn't matter. Follow somebody else. You want to have that, and I hate to say it, but when you're by yourself as a pug, you want to have that Zerg mentality because you're going to get a lot more done and you're going to help your server a lot more than if you're just running around doing your own thing. And that'd be sort of my quick tips.
All right, excellent. So what we have next up is actually one final question for the mailbag here. This is from Jeff, who sends it in live via the power of the internet from a while ago.
Hey, what's up, Tales of Tyria crew? Having played a lot of World v. World during the beta, I wanted to address what the role of smaller guilds is going to be in World v. World. Obviously, Team Legacy is a pretty big guild. Has an amazing website and lots of members. But coming from the perspective of a guild leader of a smaller guild who expects to maybe have 20 people max participate in World v. World, and that's kind of like our top out, what kind of role are we looking at?
All right, so that's the first part of his question. Freelancer, what do you think? What is the role of smaller guilds in World versus World?
Well, he mentioned Team Legacy is a large guild, but we make it a point to never run in groups. I mean, Bridger, you were there, Vega, great. We don't run in groups larger than, at least we try not to keep our groups larger than 15. So, Team Legacy's, like 200 something plus, members, but they're always split into 15, 20-man groups at all times. So if you take that into account, what does the individual groups do? Now, we have a number of specific builds and setups for our groups. I can't really go into it because that's what makes Team Legacy. But for these smaller groups, the 15, 20-man groups with these specific builds, they accomplish specific objectives specific to the campaign strategy. So as a individual guild, you could emulate, just like we do, one of these smaller groups. You could basically go around as a smaller guild and say, we want this server to win, so let's ask the larger guilds and stuff, what are they doing and where can we help? Now, if you're that smaller guild that's just like, to hell with this large guild, I'm going to do my own thing, okay, fine. I can relate on that on some level. But if you're going to be that guild that sort of wants to do your own thing where you're not a wing of a grander campaign strategy, then look at it from a perspective of trying to manipulate where those bigger guilds are. So if you see Team Legacy or somebody from Titan or whoever, if you're rolling on one of these big alliance servers, what are they lacking in? Take that perspective. You see on the minimap, they are taking supply camps, towers, and keeps, but they seem to be lacking on supply camps. It seems like they're always aiming towards keeps and towers. Well, let me tell you something. Keeps are the most important objective in World v. World. I would much rather Team Legacy take all of the keeps on the map and forego all of the keeps on the map.
All the towers?
All the supply camps. I apologize. I would much rather Team Legacy hold all of the supply camps on the map instead of all of the keeps on the map any day of the week. So most guilds, they don't see it from that perspective. So you could be that guild that goes in and takes advantage of that and takes supply camps. Also, consider the fact of developing your own guild. You want to be able to get karma, you want to be able to get guild influence, etc. Take that small guild of 15, 20 players, whatever it might be, split it up into groups of 5 and take multiple supply camps at once. You don't need to be running around as a 20-man group. So there's a bunch of things you can be doing. Small guilds are crucial to World v. World, and they are, because it's going to be up to the small guilds to fill in those little gaps that the bigger guilds are not able to pick up on, at least for the most part. I think most guilds, even the largest ones like Team Legacy, have sort of a tunnel vision effect that it'll affect any large guild. And it's your job as a small guild to say, okay, this guild's doing their job, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but here's where they're lacking, and I can fill that gap. That's
Yeah, I can definitely foresee. I mean, we've had situations where Stone Mist is under attack by a major enemy alliance, and we're like, okay, everybody get there. We need everybody on the siege at the top to defend the Keep Lord, etc. And so Team Legacy, like you said, tunnel vision on Stone Mist for this particular situation. I mean, it's for good reason. Stone Mist is a very important objective with 50 points, etc. But at the same time, if we've got everybody on Eternal Battlegrounds headed to Stone Mist to defend it, there could easily be small 5 or 10 man groups out there taking our towers, taking our supply camps. And in those situations, you need to have somebody who's not, you know, tunnel visioned on Stone Mist. Like it's going down on my side. It's not crashing. It just apparently stops getting connected for whatever reason. We should be back right about now. So let's see. Anyway, like I said, communication, I think, is the crux of everything that you said right there. Communicate with the other servers, the other guilds on your server will go a long way, whether you're a small guild or a big guild. All right.
Let me give a few specifics just so, you know, smaller guilds can get an idea. So you may be asking, well, what kind of roles can I play other than taking supply camps? Well, consider some of the more basic groups that Team Legacy has. I won't go into comps and stuff, but the overarching goals is, okay, if this giant guild is here taking this keep, put yourself in the mindset of where the enemy reinforcements would be coming from. You know, maybe you can be the guild that intercepts those reinforcements coming to defend the keep. That's one idea. You know, you could be the guild that says, hey, we don't mind running around and upgrading things since you guys sort of have this main attack force. You know, then if you want to do that, that's fine. I know that if a small guild came to me and said, do you mind sparing some gold so that when we can run around and upgrade things, I'd be like, sure, have all the money you need. You know, another objective would be a flanking party, which would be really fun for small guilds. You know, you see the main guilds running around attacking these large groups. What if you're that group that's a little bit more organized because you have a smaller number, and you go up on the nearest mountain and set up ballistae? You know, you could be that as well. A third one would be along the lines of a defense force. One of the, again, going back to the tunnel vision, a big problem with the large alliances, at least outside of our alliance, what I've noticed with other servers, is they have a tendency of playing hopscotch with towers and keeps. So they'll attack a keep, they'll wipe it out instantly because they're running 50, 60 people or whatever, and then they'll move on to the next one and leave the back, you know, the one they just left completely undefended. Well, you can see that as a weakness of that server alliance, and you could be the guys that come up behind them and defend it for about 5-10 minutes. Because the way with pug players, the way it works is it doesn't matter. There's always going to be defenders, okay? And so when a guild, a large alliance takes over that keep or that tower, they're going to leave it, and those defenders are going to keep respawning and coming back. Well, when they come back, they say, oh, it's undefended, they already took it, and they're going to start sieging it again. And I've seen that time and time again. You can be that guild that sort of sits there as like a field defense for the next 10, 15 minutes or so. So there's a number of things you can fulfill that alliances will often look over. And, you know, you can kind of get your niche then and get a name for yourself.
All right. Jeff has one more question here. Let's listen in.
And along with that question, what kind of communication do you think we'll see between the different guilds? Obviously, if you already have alliances, then that communication will be pretty easy. But with the whole server participating in World v World, to what extent do you think we'll see, you know, coherent communication in between the different guild leaders? Do you think that we'll see some kind of guild leader channel that ArenaNet could make to make communication easier? Or, you know, would that be something you guys would like to see? Or would you rather just leave that up to the guild leaders themselves? Anyway, guys, thanks for taking this question. Have a great day, and thanks for all you guys do.
All right, so Jeff wants to know what kind of communication would we see between guilds and things like that. So that's a very good question. I mean, everybody knows Team Legacy, part of the Ascension Alliance. We have a very large communication network between all the guilds involved. I think there's like a, you know, separate team speaks obviously for each guild, and there's ways that we communicate between those. But let's talk about, let's say you're not in Ascension or Titan, because let's face it, most of the community playing Guild Wars 2 is not in one of those two major alliances, and is probably not going to be in a major alliance. How do you communicate? Great. What do you think? Should there be more tools put in there for guild leaders to communicate just with each other, for example, like a guild leader channel?
Well, I don't think we know exactly what ArenaNet has, like, right out the gate right now. Like, they said they're going to have lots of crazy, like, forum support, so I'm not sure, like, what they have in mind on their end to help, you know, server communities coordinate things with one another. I assume that they might have some ideas. Whether or not they're going to be there for launch, I don't know.
Well, they did have an alliance function in Guild Wars 1, if I'm not mistaken. You could actually have, mechanically in the game, you could set up multiple guilds together to form an alliance. And I think somebody mentioned they can get to like 1,000 people or something like that with all the guilds combined into an alliance. So it's probably something they're going to work on after launch, is more communication tools intra-guild like that, or inter-guild. But I do want to point out at this point, while we're talking about alliances, because I forgot to at the beginning, there is a new Ascension Alliance mailing list. I've getting a lot of questions from people asking, you know, where's Team Legacy going to roll? Where's Tales of Tyria going to roll? What do you guys? I want to play with you guys. What's going on? So originally, if you recall a little while ago, we had a mailing list for you guys to sign up for, a Google group that would let you guys know what server that we were going to go on as Team Legacy, as Tales of Tyria, as the Ascension Alliance. And the reason we're doing that is not because we hate you guys, not because we don't want people following us. Is right now we're concerned that our alliance, as large as it is, won't all be able to get onto the same server if we just tell the world weeks ahead of time and everybody knows that's where TL is rolling. Because in beta weekend number 3, that did happen to us. We tried to get back onto Crystal Desert, creating new characters, and people in the Alliance couldn't get in. So the Alliance has basically made this decision that what we're going to do is keep our server selection secret until a couple hours before launch-ish. That's not an actual time frame. I'm just kind of giving you an idea of how it's going to be. So what the idea is, you signed up for the mailing list before, ignore it. This is a new one. The old one is they decided they want to do a different way. So what we have here is a Google form to fill out, and it's basically just a couple of simple questions, including your email address. And if you've been following the show at all, you should probably be able to answer these questions without any major problems. And then you can be signed up. And what you want to do is just pay attention to your email on the day of the launch, basically on Friday night, Saturday morning-ish, and you'll get an email sent out to everybody who signed up for this mailing list, letting you guys know where Team Legacy is rolling, all right? It's not because we don't like you guys. We're doing this so that you can join us. Otherwise, we keep it completely secret.
There's a couple reality checks that everybody has to do. Number one is, you know, not everybody signing up for this is going to get an email. You know, we are looking for Tales of Tyria fans, but also specifically Tales of Tyria fans that are as passionate about World v. World and structure PvP as we are, as the Alliance is. You know, this Alliance is not a game. We take it very seriously. There's no non-corny way of saying that. You know, we are fully driven on being the best server out there. And thankfully, you know, the Alliance also understands that this means that we have to encompass our community to the fullest extent. So aside from having, you know, this little mailing list looking for the World v. World fanatics out there, you know, that want to go out there and support us in World v. World, we're also looking to create a community website for the server. We're looking to create sort of a open-ended for smaller guilds and other time zones, basically to all come together on this server and not only coordinate on World v. World, you know, even if you're not part of the actual Alliance, but on this forum/community, you can talk about, okay, guys, Friday night, let's all go take on these public events, or let's all go to OR and do whatever's there. You know, we all hear that there's these big events in OR. So it's a collaboration of getting everybody together, not just for World v. World, but we are looking for players that are driven to become sort of a server movement to fully, you know, do dungeons and everything else nonstop. So the idea is that players signing up for this, the small community, small guilds that we're going to be sending out the emails out to, are going to be the cream of the crop. You know, we want people that are going to make our server number one, not just in World v. World, but in PvE accomplishments, getting out there and doing dungeon runs, consistently going out there and working on legendaries, you know, all sorts of stuff. And we think that through a forum, through a community effort, by reaching out outside the Ascension Alliance, we can do that in a much more efficient manner. Because let's be frank here, you know, this Ascension Alliance is definitely incredible, but we saw it time and time and again that there are small guilds and individual players that just blow our minds every time we go into a BWE. So we want those players to tell us why they want to roll with us on the server, and by all means, we want them on our server. You know, those are the big guys. That we had so many pugs, Bridger, that ran the groups out in, you know, Eternal Battlegrounds better than I did. You know, I was like, who is this guy? You know, why is he not a TL member already? You know,
yeah.
I want more people like that. And I do believe that Team Legacy is not the most elite out there. There are players more hardcore and more driven to win than even me and you and everybody else, and we want those players.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that you know, it's just, it sucks. It's just, because we know everybody wants to be a part of this. you know, the stuff that TL is doing, the kind of community that we're trying to foster, the kind of thing that Team Legacy and the Ascension Alliance are trying to create is a community that works together, that helps each other, that doesn't tolerate trolls, etc. And everybody wants to be a part of that. And because there's so much hard work going into whatever the Ascension Alliance server is, everybody does want to be a part of that. So we just want to make sure that we can get people who will give back to the Ascension Alliance in the same way that we're giving, you know, to them. So that's basically that. If you want to see the link to that mailing list, it is in the show notes near the top under show updates. So go ahead and check that out in the show notes, talesoftyria.com. Now, let's get to the main event. 50 minutes into the podcast, why don't we? Jeez, I put too much stuff in here. The mailbag was great, though. All right, World v. World Revisited. It's going to be a big World versus World episode because there's a bunch of interesting concerns that I've sort of gathered up over the last couple of weeks that people have been bringing up. So first, let's talk balance. And I'm going to throw out a hypothetical to you because this is a very interesting concern that I've heard, and I want to see if you guys think this is valid or not, okay? This is the situation. Let's say server number 1 is at, I don't know, let's say 100,000 points. Server number 2 is at about 80,000 points. And server number 3 is at about 60,000 points. And we're coming up to the end of the rotation. Obviously, those numbers aren't realistic, but let's just pretend they are for now. So we're coming up towards the end of the rotation. There's only another, 12 hours or 2 days left or what have you. And you're server number 1. How do you ensure you stay number 1 if you have a choice between attacking server number 2 and server number 3? Well, server number 3 isn't really a threat to you because they can't generate points fast enough. Even if they started taking points now, they're still so far behind. But server number 2, they're still a threat to you because they are actually close enough to maybe catch up and surpass you. So server number 1 has an incentive to attack server number 2. Likewise, server number 3 doesn't have a chance of catching server number 1 in time. However, they do have a chance of catching server number 2, so if they have a choice between attacking server number 1 and server number 2, they will attack server number 2. Now, what this does is it has an incentive to where server number 1 and number 3 gang up on number 2 and basically destroy them and send them to the bottom, and server number 3 wins. Now, this is a really interesting hypothetical scenario. Whether it will actually come to pass, I have no idea, but Freelancer, what are your thoughts? Is this scenario realistic, and if so, are those incentives actually there? Is that what's going to happen?
You know, I got to shamelessly say that I have contacts in nearly all of the notable guilds out there. If I am third place, Bridger, I sure as heck will be popping on their TeamSpeak to collaborate, to take down those, mass Zerg servers, whatever it is. I mean, we don't ever want to be in that third place position, but it's just common sense, that at that point, that server, they got to go down. You can't let them win by.
So you're talking about if you're number 3, you would attack number 1? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're differing from this
even
opinion.
without talking to the other guilds. But I would make sure that the other server, number 2, was working with me. So at least I would make sure that there were a few people in there that had the same goal, because I would. This is just me, but I would much rather see number 2. It really depends on what number 3 is, or what number 1 was doing. Like, if number 1 is winning by mass Zergs, like we just cannot stop all of the Zerging going on, I would much rather help number 2 and see them lead to victory than, let number 1 win from Zerging. And just the same, like if number 1 is just, using all of the really uncouth tactics, like they're just being complete, to be frank, being dicks about certain things. Well, let's say on the community, they're like on Gerber or something, they're just bad mouthing everybody, right? Like, oh, we're number 1, we dominated, Ascension Alliance, blah, blah, those are the servers that I think people will naturally jump in on. So I can't wait. I mean, you get into server drama and stuff. Now, being number 1, most servers though, Bridger, won't stay number 1 for long, because one thing like I ran into with like the Titan Alliance, and one thing we ran into with I think it was Fort Aspenwood, is that they try so hard to expand so fast and claim so many points that it was so easy for us to come up behind them and take everything and start upgrading. That's the big problem with these number 1 mass servers. Even if they have the whole map and they have that point lead, chances are they have a weakness. And if you're claiming that much and you have that much of a point hold, likely your weakness is the fact that you expanded too far. It's like Bridger, you play Risk, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So picture an alliance playing on Risk, and they put all of their forces jumping from point to point to point, all over the map, and they leave one guy on every little point behind it. That's kind of how I look at it, and that's the problem with a lot of number one servers. So, yeah, we're gonna gang up on them, especially if they bad talk people.
Actually, that kind of goes with what I was thinking. Is the whole thing of this whole hypothesis? It all hinges upon the server number 1 and server number 3 really having a choice in who they attack. But to me, it's like, imagine Eternal Battlegrounds, where one server is doing really well. They're going to have Stone Mist, and they're probably going to have a tower or a keep from each of the other servers. Well, if it's split up like that, if you're the blue server and red is dominating the middle of the map, and they have, the towers around the middle, and they've also got the NPCs and whatever, you are either going to have a choice of attacking the guys in the first place, the ones who are dominating, and they're right next to you, or going all the way across the map to attack the guys that are in second place. Or vice versa. If you're in second place, you have the option of attacking the guys in first who are right there, or going all the way across the map and attacking somebody that's not, in first. So I think the geography of the maps is going to make it difficult for that hypothesis to come to pass, and I think we lost great there.
And specifically last BWE and stress tests, we made it a point to take out Fort Espenwood. Like, I remember more than once telling all the guild groups going on, only take Fort Espenwood points. Like, that was a command. That's what people did, and Fort Espenwood shot down the rankings. We did that due to some comments and stuff. Basically jabs made on the community forums. It's you got to respect World v World. There are unfortunately some communities and some servers that will naturally get ganged up on because they don't respect the community at all. They go out with the EPing and, oh, we're better than everybody, and they, it's like, well, yeah, of course you are, because you have, all of these guilds.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Freelancer, the People's General. So that's a good point. If you're a dick to everybody else in the community, like, yeah, our server totally stomped yours last time, noobs. Like, no, everybody else is gonna not tolerate that and go after you, and just to spite. Like, spite is a powerful thing. It's a very powerful emotion. All right. So now another question, Vega. There was concern about a couple of World versus Worlds worlds or shards dominating the top slot. They say, okay, well, if Team Legacy and the Titan Alliance and let's say one other big alliance are like the big dogs, they're fighting over 1, 2, and 3. What's the point of being on my server? We're never going to get up there. Why should we even play World versus World?
I think that's actually a pretty relevant fear, because I don't know. I mean, if you are on that server that doesn't have that organization and you are just getting stomped, why would you want to waste your time going into World v World to try and take over these very highly organized guilds that are just dominating everything? I mean, yeah, it might be fun to try it and, maybe spend a day or two on it, but if you're getting absolutely nowhere, I know me personally, if I was on one of those servers, I'd be like, whatever, they're going to win it. I'm just going to go do something else in the game and try and, make my character better. After trying to kind of get the server behind you, if you just simply don't have the numbers or the organization to take down those bigger guilds, I mean, yeah, you could try and take some supply camps and try and take little things here and there. But I think it is going to be a concern if you do happen to get paired up against, two other servers that are very highly organized, because I don't think people are going to, no one wants to go into a game and realize, well, I like getting beat up for, every hour that I play this game, so let me just keep on doing it,
Well, ArenaNet has tried to address that to some degree. I mean, they give you these rewards, essentially. Every time your server gets to a new point, threshold, you get an extra 1% magic find, or critical crafting success % chance, or a little bit more healing %, or a little bit more health, or something like that. Now, we've only ever seen those last for like a day. and they get up to like 2 or 3% in those different categories. Imagine if they were going over the course of a couple weeks, though, you might wind up getting, you know, as long as you stick in there and at least fight it out for your, you know, third of the map for most of the time, you might wind up getting something like, I don't know, 10 or 15% bonus magic find, which is going to, you know, increase your chance of getting money, essentially, because you're going to get, you know, better loot that can be salvaged into higher quality items and things like that. Would that be worth your time?
I mean, it definitely gives more incentive to try and, you know, what I'm saying is I'm saying always try to win, but, you know, it's kind of like if you play a MOBA, you kind of get to a point where you realize you can't come back from this and you're way too far behind.
We're going to get to that in a second. That's another question entirely at the end of the week, yeah.
I mean, you know, you clearly get to a point where, okay, we can't come back from this, so... You know, in Dota, you got to sit there and just frickin' die. In League of Legends, you can surrender. But, you know, who's going to want to, again, just go out there and just get beat up on when you can do PvP or PvE?
That's necessarily... Go ahead.
What's so wrong with being the underdog, though? I mean, like...
No, there's nothing wrong with being the underdog. And I'm not saying that, oh, if you, from day one, you see that you're going against a server that has one really hard organized guild and another one, just don't even bother. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if, you know, you've been trying all week to try and come back from the deficit that you're in, and you just don't have any chance of it, I could see people saying, well, I don't want to go get stomped on. I'm just going to go play PvE or PvP.
Well, let me put it differently, because I don't know maybe if I'm saying it right. My opinion is, okay, so the top 3 slots are being fought over by, you know, 3 big alliances. And you're on a server that's, let's say, rank number 20. So the question is, you're not ever going to be playing against those giant servers because you're way lower in the rankings, right? So you don't have to worry about fighting those big servers. The question is, are you willing to fight for rank 19? Does that matter enough for you? I don't know. Great. What do you think? Is that like server pride? We want to try and slowly climb the ranks knowing that we'll probably never take number 1, but hey, we'll fight to get to 15. Is that enough?
Yeah, that should be, like, I would do that if I was on that server. I would be like, let's see if we can get this one. Let's see if we can get this one. You may never be able to compete with those top guilds, but that doesn't mean you should just say, well, I'm never going into World vs. World again. I'm never going to go there. You should just get out there and be like, we can still win. We can still have a grand old time out there. We can still have those epic moments and those crazy sieges. And that's what it's got to be about. And it shouldn't be about, like, we're number 5 ranking, so if we win this week and next week and they lose, it's going to be like a baseball season at that point if you look at it like that.
Who's getting into the playoffs?
Yeah.
I think of it actually as a good analogy to ELO in League of Legends. Just because you're not ever going to be, you know, 2100 ELO, because there's only a certain number of people that can be up there at any given moment. So just because you're not going to be 2100 ELO doesn't mean there's not a lot of people out there that like playing in ranked matches just to climb up to level 1500 to prove, hey, I'm at least this good. And maybe if you go over time, you get better and better. Maybe the next time you'll get 1600, you know, and then you'll feel proud about yourself because you made it up an extra 100 or what have you. So I think that there's something to that. But no, now let's... go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's a huge incentive too, because, you know, I feel like climbing the ranks in a game like League of Legends or even StarCraft, I feel like, you know, when it's very much individual performance or a sort of time span, whereas with Guild Wars 2, you have, you know, 2 weeks to battle that server and try and come out on top and maybe climb a rank. I feel like that's a little more doable and a little bit more exciting to do than something like League of Legends.
All
so
right.
I'm just agreeing with you on that point.
Yeah. Now let's come back to the question that Vega brought up, which is, okay, it's day number, let's say 12 of the 14-day World versus World cycle, right? And the matchup has been slightly lopsided. It's not like there's no server that's completely dominating the other two, but, you know, let's say, what did they got up to? They got up to a couple 100,000 in a single day in the beta weekends, right? So let's say, you know, one server has something like, I don't know, 1.5 million points, and the next server has, let's say, 1 million points, and the last server has, like, no, that's a bad example. Let's say 1.5 million, 1.4 million, and like 900,000 points. Now, it's taking you 12 days just to get the 900,000 points. There's no way in 2 days, even if you did really well and took back a lot of the server and started beating the other guys, mathematically it's just impossible to come back at that point. Is anybody even going to bother logging in when there's only 2 days left and you mathematically cannot win that game? What do you think, Freelancer?
That's when diplomacy comes into play, going back to what I said originally. At that point, you are the holder of deciding who gets number one. That's so much power right there.
Oh,
you're
talking about king-making.
Exactly. I mean, at that point, you can rig the game to say, I want that server to win. And that is such a powerful position to be in. That also goes back to the alliance thing. If let's say the Ascension server, Ascension Alliance is facing off against like the Jade Alliance or one of these other big alliances or whatever, and there's this third-party server there that knows, Bridger, that they have no chance of winning. They can go out there, they can have a good time, they can be the underdogs, make some really good plays, wipe out, Titan and whatever, right, and have a good time, but they just have no chance of winning. So they still have the most power in that matchup by saying that they are going to either eliminate Ascension Alliance or cause all hell for them, or eliminate this other alliance and cause all hell for them. And at that point, it comes down to respect, it comes down to relations, it comes down to diplomacy, and that's a whole nother game on itself. It's like Game of Thrones, like somebody said.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you either
really
win
is, because imagine even a smaller server, they know they can't win, but every time that you turn the corner, they're taking your supply camps and your supply camps only. I mean, is that not a really powerful position to be in?
It's like I could see both of the servers vying for number one that week, like approaching, like, hey, I got an offer you can't refuse. We'll send you a server 300 gold to your guild if you work with us instead of against us.
No,
hey, I know right now, like, I will. There's so many ways that you can negotiate and use diplomacy. Like, I could just see it, and not that we've ever done this yet, but I could definitely see it happening. Like, how's your economic situation? No, I'm just kidding. But no, I'm not.
Wow.
All right. Now, here's what I thought. Like, if you could try to fix this system to give, like, let's say that there are probably going to be less organized servers that don't have the same outlook that you have, Freelancer, that don't have that let's spite those guys, or, let's see what we can get a deal out of this here going on. Let's say that there are these less organized servers that don't have that. There's probably going to be a lot of more casual players that just go, we're not going to win this week, I'm just going to go play PvE and wait for the reset. So, to me, is there a mechanical way to try and fix that, to try to give people a reason, some kind of personal rewards to stay in World vs. World? Well, you can get karma and gold in World vs. World, but you can do that in PvE too. So maybe they just go play PvE instead. So to me, the only rewards that you currently get from World vs. World are those like bonuses that you get every time you meet a threshold. But right now, the way that they work is you gain the bonuses over time as your world does better. My opinion of how it should work is basically we play 2 weeks, and let's say that our server got 1,000,000 points. 1,000,000 points would get you plus 7% magic find, plus 5% extra health, plus etc., right? Those bonuses apply for the next 2-week period. So basically, the points that you got in the previous 2 weeks affect your server for the next 2 weeks. That means that even if you're down and out, getting points to get you over that next threshold still matters, because for 2 weeks, you could have that plus 2% magic find if you guys stay in there and stick it out and try to fight. And to me, if you can encourage people to stay in there and stick it out and fight all the way to the bitter end, it's way more interesting than if server gives up. Because if you think about it, once a certain critical mass of the server gives up and somebody logs in only to find out that their server is way outnumbered and they've only got like half the numbers of the other server, that's going to cause him to leave, and then nobody's going into World versus World, because you got to have that critical mass of people to stay in there. So that's my thought. I kind of think, do you guys think that's a good idea, a bad idea? What do you think, Greg?
I don't know. I just don't feel like anyone's gonna like drop out. Like they're just gonna just give up, because I maybe I'm just not like, I've never actually done that to that point where like I've said I'm just gonna quit this. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think actually with your scenario that where like one server might just totally be destroying and they have like triple the people, I think that's where the server caps on World vs. World are actually going to help out for those smaller servers. It's going to keep those servers that kind of have that muscle from like fully using all that muscle, and it will kind of put them more at like an even level. So they'll never be at like that huge of a disadvantage. But if I can just throw a random comment in here, I don't think there's like that sort of like outmanned buff that is in World vs. World. I don't think that's significant enough to keep people in there, though.
Yeah, I think it's just a magic find bonus and a little experience bonus. I think something like that.
It's like karma and experience, I believe. Like extra karma and experience, which is nice, but it's like, am I going to sit in here and get 33% extra karma? Or am I going to go out into PvE and get like ore karma, which is probably like billions and billions of raining karma?
Oh, ore as in the place.
Yeah.
Like ore karma? Why would you get karma from a mining node? Oh, I see where you're going with that. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, it's definitely a problem, and we can only hypothesize about how and theorize how these things are actually going to flesh out, because each server is going to have a different community.
I feel like I like your idea, but I feel like that's a good incentive for, let's say there's those smaller guilds that are, the 20 people or so, that they can run around and they can take supply camps and they can, do little things, stop the supply trains, the Daliacs and all that. I think it's incentive for them to keep on going in there to try and get their server a little bit more points. But, I mean, let's face it, 20 people aren't going to be able to stop 200 people, So I think any incentive is definitely good, but I think no matter what, if you're, those last couple days, if you're at a point where, actually, it's not even to the point. It's like, if you're just playing and you can't have fun in World vs. World because you're getting stomped everywhere you go, I think that's going to obviously turn people away, especially if the fact is no matter what, they can't win that week.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and as I said, we can only theorize. We'll definitely revisit this if these problems do crop up, and we'll talk more about it and how it could be fixed. But let's talk about another one that this is actually one that I've developed. So you've got squads, right? We've talked about this before. Commanders can lead squads, and I have to say, the system as it is currently implemented kind of confuses me. Not confuses me, but confounds me? No, that's not it either. I just don't think it'll work. Let's put it that way. Okay, so here's how it works. So, Freelancer's got 100 gold. He pays to get a commander icon. He's got a commander icon. He's running around World versus World. He's got a giant target over his head, and everybody on the map can see him. Great. That's fine. He'll attract a ton of people following him around. That worked flawlessly. That part of it is fantastic. However, the system is supposed to allow people to right-click on him and join and then participate in squad chat. Now, Freelancer, let me ask you this question. How many people were actually participating in squad chat, or how many people actually joined your squad and typed anything in squad chat? Were you using it at all?
Zero.
That's what I thought. That's my worry, because this whole system is put in there, and essentially it's not really advertised. You have to find the guy, right-click on him, and choose Join Squad, and then you don't even necessarily know how to type in squad chat. Like, maybe it'll get better over time, but I just feel like it's so, like, in the background. And why would you even bother using it if you can just use /say?
Well, hold on.
Go ahead.
If you join a squad, does it... So how big is your squad?
Squads, the last time that we heard a number was in the Reddit AMA, and it was 50 people maximum in a squad. In addition, when you join a squad, the other benefit is that all of the other commander icons go away from the map, and so you only see your commander so that you won't get confused, for example, like which one is my commander, the one I was following if you die or whatever.
So when you get put into a squad, I'm assuming that on the mini-map, people who are in your squad show up as a different colored dot?
You just see the commander icon. I don't think that they show up as a different colored dot.
They do. They show up as blue dots. Yeah.
Because
same as if they're in your party.
Oh, okay.
They show up blue.
Because
that is kind of useful.
I guess a question for Freelancer. You said that there were 0 people that did the squad thing when you had the commander icon.
Squad chat, yes.
The squad chat. How many people that were following around were on the TeamSpeak or part of Team Legacy or part of the Ascension Alliance and in their own little individual groups on TeamSpeak?
Anybody on TeamSpeak was told to go to a separate group. There was not a single person following me that was on our TeamSpeak. We took advantage of those that wanted to be more organized and wanted to follow underneath our Team Legacy commanders in their individual groups. We actually placed them in separate groups. It was my job as with the only person, I think, in all of BW3 that had a commander icon, was to rally all of the pug players the best I can. that's part of the whole reason, like, Ascension wants to, go try a different server and stuff, because we want to make sure that instead of trying to encourage people to rally behind that commander icon, that they just naturally want to do that, or they naturally want to follow Resonance, Oceanics, or they naturally want to follow Boon Control, European Guild, or all of the other great guilds we have. We want that to naturally happen. I think commander icons in general serve as a focus point for where the action is, but beyond that, to me, they just seem like they were a more reliable version of the orange cross swords.
Yeah.
Where you could see on the fly where somebody was. I mean, there was a lot of really fun comments and stuff that people threw out. Like, we were using the map chat, team chat to communicate within the pug. So all of the Team Legacy and Ascension Alliance members, we have our own team speaks, and we have special ways of communicating between those team speaks. And that was fine. That worked for us. We had the organization down there. But as far as getting the pugs corralled, because I don't think a lot of alliances and a lot of guilds understand this, the server that is able to control their non-gilded populace, the pugs, if you will, whatever you want to call them. I call them non-gilded, but you can call them pugs or whatever. Just basically the players that are not in the major World v World guilds. The server that is able to control them and get them rallied up and get them fired up to want to be able to go out there and be organized is the server that's going to end up on top. And I've said this to my own alliance in the early game. I've said this numerous times. We're looking so early on and 1 month into the game. Imagine 6 months into the game, okay? What can you say about your server population then? What can you say about all these little 20-man guilds then? Because I can tell you what's going to happen, because I have that experience from past MMOs. A, half of them are going to be gone. They're going to fall apart due to the drama. And B, those pug players and the mass majority of those players could give 2 craps less about World v World. Because at that point, they're going to be wanting to try to get legendaries, which, by the way, has nothing to do with World v World except for, I'm sure maybe karma or something. But for the most part, we're guessing legendaries require like dungeon items and all sorts of high-tier crafting items. Well, you're not going to be able to get that efficiently in World v World. So they're going to move away for that reason. They're going to want to move away because they want to do all the high-tier ore stuff. And so it really comes down to any guild leader, any alliance leader asking themselves, I'm going to place myself on this server, but what is the server going to be doing outside of the alliance 6 months from now? And that's where I think that, that's where I know Ascension is taking a grasp of that. We're trying to mold that perfect community, or at least as good as we can get it to be, where we're all intertwined, everybody knows each other's names, and they're more likely to rush out there and help each other. Whereas a lot of these other alliances, they're going to be great in the first couple of weeks because everybody wants to do World v World. But just how many doors can you knock down for 10 minutes straight before you get bored? Mm-hmm. And at that point, how many players are going to want to move on to other things? It's going to flip around to where instead of trying to keep the pug players out of World v World because you want to get your alliance in, you're going to be begging them to come in and help you out because you can't get enough players. And then crunch time happens. Then at that point, a couple months into the game, who has the most organized server, not who has the most organized alliance.
So going back to the squad chat thing, I just feel like that tool could be improved. And it seems to me, like you said, zero people got in, nobody even used it because it's really hard to find and use. And I feel like it should just, if you go within a certain radius of a commander icon, you should automatically just see the squad chat. That way, if you're within, let's say, 6,000 units of a commander icon, then you could talk to everybody else within that radius without necessarily having to talk to the entire map. So when Freelancer says, how many people here have supply, he would know he's talking to everybody within this large radius. Now, /say works, but it only works within a 2,000 unit radius, and oftentimes if you've got a big Zerg attacking it like in Stone Mist or running around grabbing whatever, then it's not necessarily good enough. But I mean, squad chat feels redundant to me. But anyway, we'll see if that, I mean, I'm sure those kind of tools are going to get improved, though, by the time the game comes out. These are the kinds of things that we see post-launch. These are the kind of things that they have to throw on the back burner because it's not critical to the launch.
And keep in mind, I was the only one with commander icon. Now, if there were multiple commanders, Bridger, then obviously map chat, using the team chat would have been inefficient because then those in another commander squad would have been like, well, is he talking to us or is he, and then you confuse people. So imagine a month into the game when a couple of guilds have their commander icons at that point, then I could see squad chat being useful at that point. I think in this case, we can't really judge it because of the fact that I was the only one with commander icon. So later on down the road, I think I would rather be using squad chat, because at least then I could be sure that I'm talking to the people in my squad and not somebody on the outside of the map.
All right, so last thing I think I want to talk about here, let's put us back in a situation. Great, you and I were defending that tower, right? And there's a bunch of people. Now, every once in a while, we were able to focus our fire on somebody that's out there in the little Zerg fighting against the door. You know, they got their flame ram down. We were able to coordinate and get somebody down on the ground. They were downed. They're on the ground. They're like, help me, I need help to get up, whatever. They're not defeated, but they're just downed. They're in the down state. Now, me and somebody else could be throwing all of our spells, AoE, everything we have on that person. But if just two people down there sit down and try to res him, he gets up no matter how much DPS we're throwing down there. And to me, that was really annoying. And it felt like, why do I even bother trying to down anybody if they're just going to get right back up from two people? What do you guys think? Great, you were there. Do you have a problem with how fast downed players are rezzed, even in combat?
No, I think that is totally working as intended, and I think that's a very smart design decision on Arena end. Because if you look at it like this, there's sort of like a double-edged sword to that thing. Like, yeah, you're able to get your guys back up, but you have to focus 2 or 3 of your people in one little area. And that makes them a lot more vulnerable, because now they can't dodge. They're standing in one place. They're not doing any like sort of abilities or anything. So they're more vulnerable targets to not only just siege equipment, but also players. And imagine if like you down maybe 2 or 3 people, and then a few people in that like sort of Zerg or that mass group that's sieging your castle, you know, go to res them, and you guys decide to push out and like maybe go through the front door and like decide to push them away, they're going to be sort of like thrown off, because they're going to be like trying to get their friends up. Now, do I think it's too fast? No. And I think it is going to be one of those things that's going to show in more organized groups on like getting those people up and like getting them alive, and then making sure you don't have like everyone in your group all of a sudden go focus on one guy who just got down and get him up.
Okay. Now, what about defeated players? Should there's actually been some discussion. Should defeated players even be resable in World versus World? What do you think, Freelancer? Is that an important mechanic?
I don't think defeated players. Well, I lean on both sides, because think about it. If you defeat a player and they have to fully respawn, they have to run all the way across the map. And how many times will that happen before people start complaining about that? Mm-hmm. You know, what if the fight's happening on the north side of Stone Mist and my spawn's on the southwest side? So I relate to that aspect, because then you have a chance where you don't have to run all that way. But at the same time, I sort of feel like that if I had connected a trebuchet shot on a group of players and wiped out 5 of them, that something tells me that in even a half-real scenario that they should not be able to get back up from that.
So you're saying the answer to this question depends upon which side of this particular defeated player I am on.
Yeah, and so, I'm biased because I know, like, we have our own tactics that we res people, like, little inside info for you guys. Time warp, love it. Place time warp on top of all of your down players. You res them twice as fast. Oh yeah. So, little inside tactic there. Haste makes it where you res people twice as fast. You think it's fast just resing people with 2 people? Try it in a time warp. And I'm throwing it out there, but I kind of relate to the smaller guilds, and maybe there's the groups that are trying to be the tactfully minded ones that are running in smaller groups that are going to get wiped. If one of 2 of them escape, like if they make that decision, Bridger, to run away and escape, and they make it out, I think they should be sort of rewarded for that. If they made like a strategic, backing off or whatever, and then they can come back and revive their comrades after the Zerg or the larger group moves on. I think that's pretty cool. But and then also running all the way from spawn again, if you don't have a waypoint, is sort of, that can get old really fast. And a lot of the times when you're running across the map, there's not any action going on, so you're just running. You basically put your numlock key on, or whatever your key is for auto run.
Practice casting swiftness as fast as possible.
You alt tab and you watch Tales of Tyria while you're running. So
I look at the down to revived players as just bait.
I do.
I mean,
too.
like
I do too.
it's like you know, you watch those war movies where the sniper shoots someone and the guy's like, "Oh, my leg," and he's leaning on the ground and like, "No, don't go out and get him. You're gonna get killed." And then the other guy goes out there and tries to like help him, and they're like, boom, and then he's down there. Oh, both the guys are down there with my leg. That's how I look at it. You know,
Sniper, aim for the leg. That's what
Yeah.
you learn on Tales of Tyria. You're a sniper.
aim for the leg and bait
Sweep
more
the
people.
leg.
Get
out.
more people. That's actually a very interesting point. Is maybe I didn't have enough focus. Like my thing is like, okay, if there's a large group and I manage to take somebody down, I want them to stay down. You know, so the problem
Well, I
is
think
if I'm
I
on
think
the
the thing
top of a
is-
tower, I can't go down there to finish them. That's my problem. I
I think the thing is,
Well,
don't
that's
focus
fitting.
on the person you downed. Focus on the people that are rezzing him and
Yep.
make them go down.
That's what I do though. I use all my AOE's on the whole group area, and it's still never enough.
And another thing is people should be building, like, most people go into World v. World without any particular build. Most of the time they carry over their PvE build. I mean, let's be honest, Bridger. Did you pretty much use the same build in PvE as in World v. World?
Not in the first couple beta weeks. I always use my staff in World v World for my elementalist, but I usually, for leveling in PvE, I think I use the scepter.
But
dagger.
when you were bringing your skills out into World v. World, did you consider a skill that was directly designed, like a utility skill, directly to knock people off of people rezzing other people?
Oh yeah, actually, somebody
I said
pointed
that.
out that the number 3 skill on the staff, which is like a blowback, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's cool. But just in my mind, I didn't imagine a blowback, because that's not how wind works. I didn't imagine a blowback working from
My
max
aversion.
range. But somebody pointed out to me, no, that's got a 1200 range. You can use that from the top of a tower. And I was like, oh, really? So maybe I wasn't
Yeah.
using that enough, because I learned that like just intrinsically. I didn't even try to process that it was doing
Like
anything.
I saved my number 5, the illusionary wave or something like that, where it's the great sword ability that knocks everybody back in a cone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not only do I use that to troll people and knock them off cliffs, but I actually usually save that skill in the middle of a big battle. If you watch my streams, I don't ever use it in the middle, like, because there's no point. People just use it just to use it, and it's like it drives me nuts. You know, I'm trying to kill a mob at a supply camp, and somebody runs up and knocks them back. Like, why did you knock him back?
It was on my bar. It was off cooldown, so I hit it.
Like, we'll be killing like
no.
a Keep Lord or something, or just a random whatever in a supply camp, and just somebody comes up and knocks them back. Like, but why? Why did you do that? You
I
know,
was in
save that
melee.
skill.
No, I'm not.
I hit button. Why not?
But I actually encourage my guild members, and I encourage anybody out there doing World v. World, design your build around like 3 main things. 1, spiking down a player, because if you can't spike a player, you're not going to kill them. They're going to run off. They're going to run into their little hordes of ants, and you will never kill them. All right, so develop some sort of spike build that can do a decent amount of damage. You need a movement skill, so your build has to have some sort of movement skill in it, whether it's a speed buff, whether it's a blink of some sort. Like, if you could combine multiple skills, great, awesome. But then the third thing all the builds should center around is some sort of CC, like a stun or a daze or something that knocks somebody out of a siege weapon, and something that knocks somebody out of rezzing somebody. You should have all 3 of those skills. I've actually gone off and ranted to some of my guild members before when I saw somebody up on a wall, and that guy's on the ballista shooting you, or let's say we're running up to an enemy group and there's a guy on a ballista shooting us. Well, I see a guild member right next to him, and it's like, knock him off the ballista so I'm not getting hit by 9K crit shots, Knock him off. Well, I don't have a knockback skill. What do you mean you don't have a knockback skill? Oh, it drives me nuts. You should always have those basic things. And and then somebody rezzing, or somebody trying to get into the door. Guardians are great for this. If there is a player, and you can use the same build for this particular scenario, but if there's a player running up to reinforce a keep, and you see the door there, and you see the players running in, don't just shoot them.
Drop a line of
use
warding.
a CC or bubble with your guardian, or I've never played a guardian, but all I know is they have a troll bubble.
Guardians, remember the words of your people. You
Yeah, so-
shall not pass.
do what paladins do best, and go bubble. But you should be able to do that naturally. Every class should be setting up their build like that, because it drives me nuts when everybody's just trying to just manually focus fire a guy on his way running, and you know what he's going to do. he's going to use a skill that makes him invulnerable, or he's going to use a skill and then blink in. You can prevent all of that if you just had brought a CC skill with you. And I think so many people concentrate on damage. They don't bring that CC, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, that's the thing.
There's my rant.
That's the thing with the Elementalist is I have all of these snares, right? Like ground has 2 different ways to slow people down, and I think then I've also got a stun, but only if they run through it on my electricity and a bunch of other things. But I didn't have anything to reliably knock people back, just single target and knock you back, except that one that I thought was a melee only skill. But I'm up on the tower, I can't use that. And then somebody's like, "No, dude, you can use a gust of wind from the tower." Like, I can? Oh yeah, I'm a magic user. I can make wind do whatever I want. Like, I forgot I'm a wizard, so... Oh, man. So that's a very interesting point. Now, another thing that people were pointing out, this will be, I guess, the last thing we talk about here, with regards to defeated players. If a player is downed, and let's say guy number 2 runs in and starts to res the down player, you knock him back, right? You daze him, whatever. You interrupt him resing that player. That player's health that can then start going back down. However, a defeated player, you can't attack a defeated player's health. So, for example, if there's a defeated player, Great is dead on the battlefield, right? And Freelancer,
Huzzah!
or let's say Vega's playing a Guardian, he jumps in with an invulnerability bubble for 3 seconds and starts to res Great. Now, when you're defeated, it takes a very long time to res you, especially if you're if the person trying to res is in combat. But once your bubble runs out, you can dodge back out of combat and wait until another invulnerability comes up, and then go back in. And I'm on the tower trying to kill Great, but he's already dead. I can't kill him more. And meanwhile, every couple of 10 seconds or so, you get a new cooldown. You go in there with some kind of protection thing, and you get his bar up another 25%. Or maybe 3 people do this at different times, and it is very frustrating because you can't attack Great's health. Dang it. What are you, a necromancer? You're dead, but I can't set you on fire. Why not? What do you guys think? Is that a problem, or am I making stuff up here?
I feel like the amount of time it takes to do that. I mean, yeah, if you can organize it to have like 3 Guardians that go in one after the other, yeah, I guess that'll be annoying, but I don't know. It just seems like so much work just to get that one person up at that one time, Like for me, it was like in when the thief could just blink away in the second beta weekend. Yeah. How you couldn't kill him, he could just keep on blinking away. You just leave him alone and go like he's useless for another like 30 seconds or so. So just leave him there. Go do something else and kill someone else. Like it's like baiting him pretty much. I mean, yeah, it sucks, but I don't think it's like a huge problem.
All right, that's probably, yeah, I'm probably just overreacting. I was trying to throw up everything that I had potential issues with World versus World, and I got a couple more here, but I think we'll save those for a different time, especially maybe if we find out that they're actually issues or not. That might be a good time to bring them up, because again, we're just theory crafting here, and I think we're gonna have some more mailbag next week, ladies and gentlemen. And then the week after that is the final week before the game comes out.
Man.
Oh man! Then we're actually gonna be able to talk about stuff on the show that has something to do with the game that we're playing. It's not like
we're not theory crafting anymore.
We're not theory crafting anymore, man. This is a real thing. So
exciting.
Whew. All right. I think, though, that it is time to call it a night. But if you do have any questions for us, feel free to send us feedback. The email is feedback@talesoftyria.com. That's how you can get a hold of us. So if you have any questions you want us to talk about on the show, if you have any...
Give a shout-out.
Oh, yeah, we got a guild shout-out. That's right. I'm sorry. Freelancer wants to throw a guild shout-out out there. We're going to abide by his wishes. Who is it this week?
So you guys know that we try to throw out a guild out there every so often. If you guys want to get your guild sponsored on Tales of Tyria, send feedback to Bridger or myself, and we'll try to get you on there. But this week, I would like to give a shout-out to the guild Edge, and their website is www.edge-gaming.net. I believe it's .net. Let me check. Yeah, .net. Now, Edge I've known Edge for a long, long time. If you guys are looking to run with Ascension Alliance, maybe you are not, Team Legacy closed our doors. So, if you're Oceanic, there's Oceanic guilds, there's European guilds. But if you're looking for another U.S. guild, that is running on the same caliber as TL, by all means apply to their guild. The guy running the show there, or the couple of guys, Karain and Maximus, I love those guys. They are awesome, and they are the kind that will run things organized, but not so much to where it's militaristic and where you hate your life. They're a bunch of good guys. So go over there and apply if you are still looking for a guild. I'm sure they'll be more than welcome to look over your application. That's all.
Awesome. Big shout out to Edge.
Edge-gaming.net.
I see they got some Minecraft stuff on there. They're playing League. Yeah, we played League with them a lot. We had that whole TL versus Edge.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. They've done so much competitive stuff with us, but they're so they have that sportsmanship that is just I can't help but idle it. I love it. So,
all right, so thanks for watching, everybody. Remember, we're here every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. If you've got any more questions for us for the mailbag, send it for next week. Feedback at talesoftyria.com is how you can find us, and at Tales of Tyria is our Twitch. Not Twitch. It is our Twitter. That's another kind of twa. And then for where you can find us on Sound Strategy Network on YouTube. We now finally have a show page. Huzzah! And thanks to everybody who helped out. We have a show page, so now the show looks all kinds of professional. I can actually put in thumbnails that don't look... Everybody's got their eyes closed looking like this. Just because we
only... I got a feedback question, if you don't mind, Roger.
Sure.
I would love for all of you guys listening, we talked about alliances. What do you think is going to be the determining factors between the big servers and alliances? What do you think a month from now is going to cause one alliance to dominate over another? I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
So is it going to be communication? Is it going to be coordination?
Is it communication? Is it the way they coordinate?
Scheduling? It could be many number of things. So if you've got any ideas, send it to us. Feedback at talesoftyria.com. We'd like to hear your report. This is Bridger signing off. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone. Are you stroking the TV?
Good thing I went away. Every week, somebody else notices that CRT and goes, "What is that? I've never seen that before."
All right, I got to say something now that this show's over. I got a bone to pick with you, Great.
Uh-oh.
Great. I got a
What do I do now?
You, sir, are going to get removed from the guild if you don't tear down that World of Warcraft poster.
Oh, man.
This is my favorite poster ever. There's a reason that poster's there.
What reason is that? Is it covering the hole in the wall where you stashed?
How dare you, man? That's
No, you know what? You know what that means? We need to get ArenaNet to send us Guild Wars 2 posters.
That could remedy the situation.
I would pay to get a Guild Wars 2 poster signed by somebody at ArenaNet, all the cool guys, or even just Colin Johansson, just sign a poster and send it to me. I would pay for shipping, I would pay for the poster, I would pay for everything. I need one for my collection.
Poster with just a sword on it and just say "From the Sword Master," and I would just be like, "Yeah, this is the best thing on earth I've ever seen in my life."
I have a collection of signed posters from the developers of various games, from the Dawn of War series, Company of Heroes series, Supreme Commander. Actually, they're all RTS games, come to think of it. But my favorite is the Rise of Nations and the Rise of Legends posters that I have. But I usually try to. I've been trying to get any game that I'm really into. I've been trying to get a signed poster by the developers. So I'd love to get one for Guild Wars 2.
I would pay for a Ritlock the size of this so that I can move the TV and put Ritlock there.
Well, you can get that. It's called a collector's edition. It's
I got that, but that's only I need one. All right, then I need a few more to make a whole battle scene on that little TV stand.
You can get plushy Ritlock to fight badass Ritlock from the collector's edition. Just have him posed in the back.
I got the collector's edition Ritlock. I'll have to.
Oh, I couldn't afford it.
I'll set something up. I got a bunch of toys that I could put there.
I couldn't afford it.
Like my Insectosaur.
Oh yeah?
Imagine Ritlock fighting Insectosaur.
Every week it could be a new enemy.
That's all I got. That's the only geekery I have on my table here today is the Batman. I
have all my geekery in front of me so that I can look at it.
Well, that's why I had to pull it off the shelf here. But yeah. All right. So, yeah, we need a Kaith plushie. We need the whole
Just get a plant.
I'd love to get
a
Kaith. Just get
a root plant or something.
Yeah. So you got Ritlock, and then you get like minis of Logan and all these other ones, and then there's just like a plant in the middle of it. Like Keith hasn't been released yet. That's my stand-in.
Man, I'd love to have the Asura Golem plushie or something.
Oh, that would be
be
awesome.
cool.
I love those guys.
That
Yeah.
would be cool.
Yeah. Well, I need to take off because I didn't have dinner yet.
I didn't
so
have dinner either. I had a late lunch, and now I was like,
I'm
I
starved.
should have brought something in to eat while I was on the show. I need
Yeah.
to cut away to Great, take over the show for a little while. I gotta get.
All right.
What are you playing nowadays, Bridger?
What am I playing today?
Yeah.
I've been playing Civ 4 the last couple of days while I was at work. A lot League of Legends, and let's see what else is in my Steam here. We played Team Fortress 2 for a while. I finished Alan Wake just recently. That was a pretty fun game.
Was
I
it
got
good?
that in the Steam sale. Yeah. And I've still got to play a couple other things. I've got the X trilogy, X3 trilogy, or whatever.
Oh
it is.
man,
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. I mean, it was really cheap.
that is.
It was really cheap in the Steam sale, so I'm like, I gotta get this, but I gotta wait until I have a whole lot of time on my hands. So I'm thinking, like, when Guild Wars 2, like, right before the next expansion comes out, the first expansion comes out, when I'm like, yeah, I've done everything, I need something new, like, I'm just gonna take a week off from work and try to dive into X3. It's just so massive of a commitment that I can't, like, I can't play it bits at a time.
It is a dense game, and I mean dense in like every twist and turn. You're like, what is going on? I can't even find my way out of here.
I've heard good things, but it's like Eve almost. You gotta dedicate yourself to it.
I'd say it's more intense than Eve.
You know what I would give to have another game like, what do you know, like Freelancer? You ever played that game? That's where my name comes from.
6 degrees of, they call it 6 degrees of movement, 6 degrees of freedom.
Well, it's just, it's like the open world space sim, and don't tell me Eve. Eve is...
It's not the same at all. It's not as it's your computer. Well, the ship's computer does everything for you.
It's just, I don't know. In Eve, you don't have that sense of immersion, like you do in Freelancer.
My immersion.
But like, no, seriously though, Freelancer, like I lost myself in that game. Like that whole game was amazing. The combat was amazing. It wasn't just sit there and press. Like in Eve, you do. You just sit still in Eve and you launch missiles.
Did you try
You only
X3?
liked it because it's your name.
Yeah.
It sounds
You only
like
liked it
it
'cause
sounds
it's
like
your
No,
a lot like
that
X3.
game came before my name, and it was an amazing game. And just everything about it was intuitive. You could do some epic dogfights and stuff, and it was still like an open world. Yeah, I wish there'd be another game that come out there.
Did you ever play the X series? Because it sounds like
I did, but it's not quite the same. Like you had to play Freelancer to really.
Yeah, I never played Freelancer, so I was trying to figure out the differences. What about Allegiance? Do you guys remember Allegiance? That was another Microsoft game like Freelancer, but it was a multiplayer one. Do you remember that?
Never played that.
Allegiance was a multiplayer space combat game, which had some persistent elements. Basically, I can't even remember too much about it, but I remember it had a lot of persistent elements where you could like jump into a match and it was this big sort of strategic struggle, like almost RTS elements built into the thing where some person was like the commander and he was giving commands to everybody else and there was fights over
Planet
resources.
Side is coming out, or is just came out.
That's what I'm looking forward to. I think I'm getting in the beta for that.
I think
free to play,
the last space combat game I played was Descent.
Descent is
similar,
awesome.
Yeah.
And plus like 5 geek points. That's awesome. I played that game like crazy.
Apparently,
Descent.
you can still play
I used to create
Allegiance.
maps for it and everything. It was great.
There's
You don't remember Descent, Bridger?
I remember Descent. I never played it, but I know something kind of about it, maybe.
Yeah,
was a
Descent
classic.
was. Yeah, it was like. It was like my first multiplayer experience too, because you could like do dial up and connect to other people's servers, and you most of the time you'd go through the levels, thinking that, or you try to go through the levels together, but it always ended up as you shooting the other guy in the back. So the plasma cannons and the big red bombs. What were the names of those? I forget the name. The ones that look like mini nukes. You remember that?
Yeah.
But yeah, good times.
So yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Allegiance was a 6 degrees, space sim that started out with like each match had players start with these garrisons and you had to fight over resources and eventually try and dominate the enemy. So it was kind of like a first-person space sim mixed with an RTS element. It was a really cool concept, also from Microsoft, which also did Freelancer, by the way. So that I wish I'd see something like that. But Planet Side 2. I am drooling. Oh man. If it wasn't for World versus World, I would like abandon Guild Wars 2 for PlanetSide 2 because that's what I want. And it's like Guild Wars 2 has the fantasy version and PlanetSide 2 has the run and gun first person shooter version in the futuristic. So it's like they're both awesome. And I can't wait.
When is PlanetSide coming out though?
It's going to be a while, I think. They just recently started what they're calling technical tests, which is basically they're between alpha and beta, essentially. They let a bunch of people download and play the game, but it's not really feature complete yet. They just wanted to get tests on, graphics cards and things like that. And the theory is that there's going to be a beta starting sometime fairly soon, but I'm expecting that it's going to last a while. But it's a free-to-play game, so it's probably going to be similar to Tribes, where if you make progress on a character in the beta, it's going to carry over into launch. Something like that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, if it's sometime next year, I don't see any issue with trying to play both,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No subscription fee to either of them. We could bounce back and forth. It would be...
That's the beauty of Guild Wars 2.
Tales of Araxis. Did I get that right? That's the name that came to my head.
What's that?
The planet name of PlanetSide? Araxis. Yeah. Wow, I can still remember it. Araxis. Araxis. Tales of Araxis. It could happen. A couple of years from now. We'll see.
Tales of Araxis.
Yeah, when I can quit my job and spend all day playing both Guild Wars 2 and PlanetSide 2, then I can make 2 shows. So keep those donations rolling in, guys. When I'm making enough that I can quit my job, then we'll start another show.
Just win Lotto.
Yeah, I wish.
That'd be nice.
And I know there's some people probably wondering where the hell that crafting video is. I got it about halfway done today. I worked on it all day yesterday and all day yesterday. And wait, did I say that twice? All day yesterday and all day today. And I still only got about halfway there. There's so many little animations, and I'm doing all the pictures and stuff that I'm creating by hand in GIMP, and I have to cut things out and paste and move it around and get everything to look right. So it's a super high quality production, and I do retakes, and I'm doing the writing over again and making sure everything sounds good. So it's gonna be awesome, and I've named it what it's going to be. It's the Crystal Clear Crafting Guide, because I've tried to make it as simple and easy to understand as possible with lots of visual aids. This is not just me with game footage talking over how I'm crafting. I've got to have visual aids, there's animations, there's like, it makes the economy video look like my first project, which it was. So, yeah, it's going to be great. So keep a lookout for that. I'm going to keep trying to plug away at it every night this week. But
do we know when Fire in the Sky is going to be ready?
That's coming after the crafting one.
Okay.
I've been telling people I've got the crafting one forever. I'm hopefully I can get Fire in the Sky out before the game launches. That's my plan. I've got a plan for that, like in the back of my head. I keep thinking about how I can do it. I just need more time to work on it, because it's like, oh, wife's home, she wants to play League of Legends, and I can't sit there next to me watching people play other games and work on something. So I might as well spend time with her. Oh, I made that sound terrible. It's not might as well spend time with her. It's like I should be working. I should be working,
I guess
but
I'll
I want
do
to play. There we go. That's more what it's like. Good thing she doesn't watch my show. Wow, that's terrible.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Alrighty, I am popping out, guys.
All right, that's right. I gotta go eat.
I'm going to take off too.
That was fun. All right. Thanks for everybody for watching. Shutting down the stream. Have a good one.
Take care.
Catch you later.